Inviting here once again Dilip Yadav, who's going to be moderating the session. He's the founder, initiator of Open Knots. I've already introduced him, so I'll move on to the panelists, inviting them here. Inviting Rishi Piparaya. Rishi Piparaya, I hope I'm pronouncing it correct. Director of Marketing and Direct Sales at Aviva. Rishi holds an MBA degree from Cornell, and he's an undergraduate specialization in economics and electrical engineering from the University of Rochester, New York. Inviting our next speaker, Manav Dhanda, Group CEO at Sri Adhikari Brothers Group. This is a group, as we all know, the leading media and entertainment group with interest across broadcast, films, content, and also publishing. Manav has more than 17 years of experience in the Indian as well as in the international media entertainment industry, having held key management positions in the organizations such as Reliance, Big Broadcast, also 92.7 FM. And that's Radio Milchi, so welcome to him. Inviting our next speaker, Vicky Kalra, Executive Vice President, Business Strategy, Ominto. Ominto, as many of you must be knowing, it was initially known as Doubly Inc., and then they changed their name to Ominto. Can I request Vicky? Yeah. And this is a global cashback reward and value-based travel shipping platform. Vicky, more than 30 years of experience in travel and hospitality industry. He started with holding the responsibility for developing and managing Doubly's travel portal. In addition, he now holds Doubly's strategic partnerships and business expansion in the developing markets. Our next speaker, Sri Ranga Sudhakara, Managing Director, Vyoma Media. He founded Vyoma Media, India's largest digital out-of-home company, reaching an audience of more than 100 million each month. Vyoma figured out how to integrate digital ad technology with the Indian Railway reach, and currently they have their presence in 200 plus railway stations across the country. Inviting now Abha Banerjee. Abha, in fact, she's a lawyer turned leadership and motivational author, leader, and the first woman motivational leader. Author of the first thought leadership book for women out of Asia and India, Nucleus. Power Women Lead from Core. She has placed India, in fact, on the world map, and as an international speaker and author. More on it, on her, you can actually do a little bit of search on our website, www.abhabanerjee.com. Inviting our next speaker, Ajay Sood, CEO of Confluence Integrated Services Private Limited. And now inviting Prasun Kumar, Senior Vice President, Marketing, Reliance Communications. May I request Prasun also to join us. Prasun, the Senior Vice President, Marketing, Reliance Communication, over 16 years plus experience across advertising, retail, telecom, and excellent record of launching and managing brands. Prasun has in-depth understanding of consumers, communication, and consumer brand intervention. So all over now to, I think, all the speakers.
Yes, thanks.
One chair extra in case. So now handing over to Dilip.
Okay, so is everybody awake after the lunch session and after these presentations? So we have been hearing from brands a lot of ideas, a lot of things that everybody has to offer. And really the topic that we have right now, what we are going to do is investigate, as we spoke about in the last session as well, what should be the rules of engagement when we look out to do successful partnerships. So this is the how of partnerships. So would like to learn from our eminent panelists and hear their thoughts in terms of, and many of them have immense experience in doing partnerships themselves. that how we can establish successful partnerships. A partnership is successful if it works for both the parties, if it lasts, and if it's enduring, and it's not just financially rewarding, but I think something more than that, because at the end of the day, financially, of course, the reward will happen if you get the other thing right. So what is that, and how do we get that right is something which we want to investigate. So essentially, Ajay spoke about, the ego in partnerships as a question in the last session. And that's an interesting point from where we can take and start to kind of build this conversation. So the ego is something which stops them, and I also believe that you can manage ego if you follow the rules of the game. So what are the rules? So what is your experience, Ajay, of dealing with the egos of, so Ajay has been the person behind building CP Shopping Festival and similar other concepts. So where he has successfully brought competing partners together. I mean, like somebody who's competing for the same customer next door, come together and participate in this fully and with full heart. So how do you manage that, and what really makes that work?
So, our existence has been because of the biggest challenge. In life, they say the bigger the challenge, the more the opportunity. So, I found, and we found as a company some 15 years back that, and we read about it also, that our ego and we ourselves are our biggest challenge. So, we found that collaboration is the biggest opportunity we found at 15 years back. So we named our company Confluence, which means coming together of ideas, of people, of companies, and our baseline is also collaborating for growth. So we found that, because we started the retail, we found, and we used to go to Connaught Place, we found the retailers, and we also started by doing training. So for initial, our interaction with retailers was training. So we started doing training for retail, and we found that the retailers are very closed. Like let's say Snow White in Connaught Place will not talk to Mohanlal Sons or Jensen's West End. Similarly, an eyewear store will not speak to the next door competitor, and they will just walk around and peek and see, who's shopping. Okay, so and what's selling, and then walk past. They will not talk to them, and they'll just try to gather information. Okay, what did you find there? Between you shopped, what did you find there? And they're not interacting, but very suspicious. So they said, why don't you get these people together? Because we had done training for them, and we had got to know them, so we were able to convince them that coming together, the pie will become bigger, rather than, it'll get divided, and we can have a bigger share. So we did a CP Shopping Festival in 2000, which was a huge success. We sold every block in every market. Like you sell the moon, we sold every A block, like the moon. For 1 month, this block is yours. So one company came, we had Pepsi, they had one block, so we said, you will be present in all the stores, you will be present, the whole parking lot can be yours, you can do your own activation, and you can promote this A block. So they were promoting A block, and all the stores were there, their product was being given free with every shopping. You shop for 1,000, you get a Pepsi. Similarly, B block was JK Tires, they were doing JK car, we gave them the block for go-karting, so they would start promoting beach blocks. So like everyone was promoting one block, and the whole CP was getting promoted. So
is it, Ajay, about, it's about, you talked about growing the pie. So, what I'm interested to know, because we have a panelist here who's about shrinking the pie, which is the cashback company. So Vicky, so from growing the pie to shrinking of the pie, and then using that to actually grow it, maybe. So Vicky, your thoughts on brand partnerships, because what I found interesting about your thing is that it's not just about brands, it's just about partnerships. So dissecting brand partnerships from the middle and saying partnerships and not brand, so that's something which I'd like to have your thoughts on.
Well, our founder is Danish, comes from a very small country, and I think he got a few facts right 11 years ago. One of them was have no ego. So we have absolutely zero ego. We don't believe in building our brand at all. We believe in working behind other partners and building their business. We are happy to build our bottom line, that's all we care for. I'd say in many ways, we are the bride that appeases every groom. And I know it's difficult enough to manage just one wife or husband, but we've done that pretty well with about 4,000 husbands. And we bring the value proposition to them so that they can bring additional value to their customers, and thus we both make money. So it's all on rev share. And that helps us reduce our marketing budget to maybe 5% of what we would have otherwise spent in taking our brand B2C and going out there and trying to get the business that we would have loved to. So if we have about 5 million members around the world in about 100 odd countries, we have over 500 million members that come through partnerships.
So, talking about rewards and really cash back and using that as a point of connection with consumers. So Rishi, in your business, and here is a business which is all about, providing their protection and rewarding them in a way and means where probably people don't even exist. So rewarding something which is more nebulous, but still finding traction around that. So from your experience of doing partnerships where the reward has multiplied because, of the kind of a business model that you follow, or approach you follow. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, for Aviva, Aviva Life Insurance, alliances and partnerships are very, very critical to us. And we spoke about ego. I think it's very important for the custodians of the brand, firstly, to be very realistic, right? So I'm Aviva Life Insurance, right? I don't have people banging down our branches, wanting to come in and buy policies. We've got limited distribution. We're not a top, we're not a top 3 player. We're, number 8 or number 9. So I think it's very important to first understand your strengths and your weaknesses, and then find partners who can kind of complement them. So if we look at our strengths, we've got 20,000 agents, we've got 3,000 employees, we've got bank partners like IndusInd, who are on my table, and most importantly, we've got Sachin Tendulkar as our brand ambassador. So for us, it's always that how do we expand our distribution? How do we find brands who have the customer segments that we want to target, and what can we give from our side to kind of multiply that effect? So for us, for example, Sachin is a great draw. So we might not be able to give our brand partners, a lot of money or a lot of distribution from our side, but we can leverage Sachin very effectively. So just today, as an example, we've launched an activation program where we've tied up the leading radio channel, and again, rather more. I mean, of course, there's been some monies involved, but we've got Sachin to dial in from London to talk to viewers.
So, so that's typically about, trading your assets, trading your infrastructure, trading what you have to be able to strike a partnership, which means that should have value for the other party as well.
Yes.
And that is typically, that's understood. But the question is that, when you're trying to do a partnership between a big and a small, and this big and a small partnerships is always a kind of a, point of discomfort, but there are enough examples where they have been very, very successful. Again, taking from an example from one of my ex-clients, Amazon, they went on to partner with the Kirana stores as pickup points. And that is something which has really worked very well for them. So now they have more than 500 or 600 pickup points in certain cities, maybe much more than 28 cities or all. And it was a partnership about a very small player, a Kirana store, and a big e-retailer. And that worked because there was something in for both the sides. Last mile delivery as a challenge, and here being part of something much bigger was another one. So would you kind of be open to establishing partnerships with very small players, and we have a number of these brands who are still starting off, or would that be of interest to you, and how?
No, totally. I mean, for example, so just another example, we're talking to a very, very, it's a startup, right, out of Bangalore, but they just somehow seem to have access to a lot of college youth. Again, it's a segment right now for the next 5 years. The youth are not going to be buying insurance, but if somehow we can connect with the youth right now and consistently for the next 5 years, when they're buying the first policy, hopefully they will think of Aviva. So again, it's a very small startup. It's it's a complete experiment, but we are willing to just to go ahead.
So very interesting. So no brand is small as long as you have hold of a set of customers, audience. You can talk to the biggest of the brands. Don't feel shy.
Exactly.
Be open. Be communicative. Put your ideas forth. So that's great. That's at least one direction that we get in terms of how to do partnerships. Now, coming on to Shri, you have been doing some interesting work with Indian Railways. And Indian Railways, again, this kind of a government mammoth, and however, moving a lot of people, so phenomenal access to the masses of this country. Of course, that is where probably all the multinationals are very focused on. So any learnings and experience that you want to talk about from there?
So, just to start off the discussion, I would like to take up what Sanjay of Dabur was saying, that there are 2 crore Hajmolas that are sold on a daily basis. The Indian Railway carries 2.2 crore people every day. So, there's more people, I think, that travel on the Indian Railway network than the number of Hajmolas that are sold. So, so just to taking it forward from that, obviously the opportunities that are there, right? There are literally, the country of Australia is 1.6
But it's not
crore,
easy to
so-
work with government in any which way, any government organization. So, and is it really, so it's not just about, gaining access numbers.
It's never easy any which way.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that it's not just about numbers alone. It's also about the culture fit.
Mhm.
Certain brands would not like to be seen with something,
Mhm.
as archaic and doesn't kind of subscribe to the imagery that you're trying to drive.
Right.
So how do you address that?
Well, today, what is real India, right? You talk about connectivity, you talk about 7,000 cities, there are 7,000 stations all over India, and there are tons and tons of brands that want to reach out to those, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns. And a lot of brands, in fact, are facing challenges in those markets, right? So there's a huge amount of opportunities. In fact, if you look at the brands that are associated with us, it's Hindustan Lever is one of our biggest advertiser, and even for the Bombay Suburban Rail Network, Amazon has used our platform extensively. So I think there's multiple brands that want to reach out to and access that sort of audience that is there.
So these are mass brands and are having interest in.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
okay, so interesting because, and these are huge platforms, so there are multiple brands can probably
Mhm.
sit on them. And taking on the multiple brands aspect, one thing which I've always been curious to know is that why, when we talk about partnerships, we're talking only in the context of 2 brands coming together. Why can't it be 8 brands, 10 brands, 9 brands? So Manav, on to you. You are a platform, and you offer platforms, and those platforms are the ideal destinations where a lot of brands can come together. And what probably Ajay is doing is also something to that extent, bringing a lot of brands together for a common purpose. But what about much more, rather than an occasion-based kind of a partnership, something far deeper with multiple brands? So any learnings, ideas, suggestions that you can offer?
That's
to
a
do
good
this.
point. So now, because we are media, we often are a must-have composition for almost every large partnership. More often than not, the formula is, let's get lots of brands, 1 dozen, 2 dozen, let's fight, drop our egos, dilute our propositions, and just put it out there, and that's called brand partnership. Unfortunately, often, one key aspect is forgotten, and that is consumer delight. I think the very factor that we all exist today is because we want to provide consumer delight. And sometimes having too many partners is not too good. You've got to ensure that if a certain proposition is the core peg of the opportunity, that must never be diluted. So it's critical that in a multi-brand partnership, the partners we pick on pay back genuinely to the opportunity from a consumer's perspective. That's one key aspect. Sadly, that often gets compromised. Secondly, it's important to drop egos, definitely. You can't have egos tussling all the time, because when the egos in play, in partnerships, the consumer is inflicted with more brands than the core promise of the tie-up, of the association, which is a pretty sad reality as well, but it's tough to not have any egos. I don't learn from you how you manage that, honestly.
After the show.
I think it's not about ego, it's about we all believe our brand is important enough to us and we're driven by our personal endeavor. The moment we drop that hat, or at least try to, and think about the consumer's benefit, there's a much bigger offering that can be created. To give you an example, a lot of brands out here, I saw there are some car companies, some hotel rooms, some clothing garment companies, some PR agencies. Simple idea, if we get together, we are media, we have a music and youth channel, which is the country's largest channel in that segment, big enough that the number 2, on number 2's base, we are 80% more than that. On number 3 and 4's base, we're 90 and 100% more than them. That's how great larger gain we have. From our perspective, when we get a partner who says that we'll get you more reach, we say we already peaked it up there, we can't get a bigger reach. It's not going to happen. I'm 80% number 2 guy on the block. What we then want to do is genuinely create opportunities to excite our consumer, our viewers, at different levels, with different payoffs. Yes, we're a broadcast platform, But can we get a car company, drive you to the airport, get a flight partner, get you into Goa, get a hotel room partner, give a great 4-day vacation out there, right? Get somebody to give you nice, wonderful clothes. And finally, when the consumer comes back home, he says, wow, I had a great experience. He becomes a brand ambassador. So at all points, when we do partnerships, we're looking at consumer delight. And there are times when we could get far more reach, far more eyeballs, but if the partner does not genuinely pay back to the proposition that we want to build with the consumer, we drop the opportunity.
Yeah, so I think you talked about consumer delight, and delight is a kind of a mixed concept in the sense that what would delight one person would not delight somebody else, and everybody's probably looking at different things, and probably it's difficult to therefore to find that common point where everybody's delighted equally in the same way. But one of the areas that we have seen, which seems to be emerging, is around causes. You know, when you adopt causes, and something again which has kind of always been gripping my mind, that why is that brands don't adopt causes as much. So we do see a lot of stuff happening, say around a Women's Day, and we have ABBA here, where a number of brands will kind of go and celebrate, you know, the womanhood and come with offers. But somehow they're doing it all alone. They are not trying to come together to do something where they are actually partnering with each other because women needs a lot of things, you know. So, and there are brands offering different stuff, but they're talking to her differently. So coming to you, Abha, from your perspective, typically from a women consumer point of view, what is that she would be looking at from a set of brands who want to partner and with a proposition and come forward?
Dilip, let me first give you the baseline number, which is what's going to interest a lot of people over here. Women's market is a $20 trillion industry globally, which is more than the GDP of India and China put together. Now, if we are not focusing on that market, we are foolish. So far when you said coming together for causes, and Women's Day suddenly sees a movement and everybody trying to do a little bit of an event, and it's almost like lip service. But when we look at the woman consumer, we are still dealing with her from a very old-fashioned way of looking at the marketing advertising perspective. Now with the whole decision-making thing coming into her kitty, with the whole financial thing coming into her space, with the whole economic movement of what buys the things in the consumer market moving to the hands of the woman, the whole dynamic is changing all across the world. The other thing that is happening in the women's space is there's a lot of social changes happening around it. And a lot of people are now moving towards that space, not just to capture the market, but if they have to move to that space, they have to be able to add to that space in a manner which benefits the woman. So we are now moving into that space of knowledge capital or creating influence. So this is a huge opportunity for every brand over here to create social change via scaling and in terms of bringing in the whole, and I call it the ABCD of the women's market. Like A is awareness. Like in a market like India, we still have to create awareness around this whole thing, because a lot of women may not even be ready to receive, but they're still buying it. The second is B is the brain share, that is a mind space. How do we position ourselves in the mind of the woman? So we have to figure that out. World over, what they are now looking for is something called C, that is credibility. You know, how do you bring in a brand? And earlier we just bring in a known face and say, okay, we are selling this product. It worked. Now people can see real faces, they can see real people, they know who's doing what. So you really can't paste a face on a product and say, okay, this is what's going to work because she is saying so or he's saying so. You can actually go up to real people and have them say a lot. We saw a lot of presentations in the morning where say we can get testimonials from people putting out their videos. So you have real people talking, so that space is shrunk now. So we can utilize that space when it comes to the women's market. And then the D part is the demographic, where 49% of the population is women. Now when they are beginning to actually go out and buy, when they're already doing it, but when they actually start taking those big decisions saying, okay, this is my market share, this is where it's going to change the economics of this country. So every brand who's sitting over here, because I personally benefit from this, I launched my book and we are going to relaunch it in US. I have been able to sell a chapter of my book to make a film, a Hollywood film, some parts of the book to create TV content. You know, that's how they're looking at the women's space, that this is important to understand what women know and want. Because unless and until they are brought onto that platform in a manner that they want, we can't sell to them.
So there is immense value in, you know, adopting certain themes. So women could be a theme, children could be a theme, There could be other issues of common interest which could be a theme. We do see around voting that a lot of brands do kind
It
of
all
make a
comes
lot of
around
noise,
that time.
noise in saying that, you know, go out and vote and do this for the country, etc., etc. So there could be different themes. And coming to Prasoon now, you know, Prasoon, any thoughts you could share with us about, you know, what really can bring brands together when it comes to some of these causes from a company which has been on the corporate side really, you know, looking at social causes or other causes which can really bind brands together, and they can go out and do something interesting. So any
Okay.
thoughts?
Since you have the buzzer on, I'll quickly summarize it. See, to me, from my experience, I can tell you whether partnerships are complementary in nature or supplementary in nature, it doesn't matter. As long as you are delivering something of value to the consumer jointly, it almost works all the time. And also couple of interesting points about consumer delight and whether big brands and small brands fit together or not, and matter of ego. In fact, I would argue that is the marriage of dissimilars which actually works best. Because then you have one brand trying to take the lead, other brand is trying to kind of follow, learn from you. It kind of works pretty well in that sense. I mean, I would just give you a small example. MTS is one of the telecom brands in India, and when I was heading its brand and marketing function, we had to launch our data business through a dongle called Emblaze data business, and our target was to enter as many enterprises as possible, because that is where the bulk buying used to happen, and that was a difficult task. So for us as a 14th operator in the market, it was very, very difficult to do so. So we decided to work with a like-minded brand in the same space, which was also targeting the same audience and which also had similarity of purpose, in terms of reaching out to that consumer segment and working on sales bit, which was HP. And HP had a series of notebooks which it was trying to push for enterprise usage at that point of time. We were a small brand, they were a big brand. Both of us came together, and we created a joint value proposition whereby an HP bundled with a Emblaze dongle was being kind of worked as a joint proposition to be sent to all the enterprises. And we also at some point of time we thought that there has to be some sort of a reward or some sort of a gratification linked to it, and so we decided to work on a consumer brand which would have similarity of purpose in terms of targeting the same consumer segment, talking to the same consumer segment, and of similar imagery. So we went to we zeroed in on Reebok as a brand. And Reebok was looking forward to push one of its particular range of fitness shoes at that point of time. And since our consumer segment between both HP and us was talking to the young professionals, etc., and they were also targeting the same segment, so it was a perfect marriage of purpose. So I would say that as long as you have similarity of purpose between various brands, and you are offering something which is of value to the consumer, partnerships do tend to work.
So great. In the interest of time, because the buzzer is already on, we'll skip the audience, questions session. And just to sum up, so I think this was interesting and great. I think what you just said is absolutely makes the most sense to me, that there has to be a shared purpose. There has to be and I think going beyond a shared purpose, there has to be shared values to do partnerships. You can do partnerships where you are offering products which kind of complement each other in the sense that your product is incomplete without that partnership. There could also be awareness-based partnerships. There could also be pure monetary gain partnerships. We learned growing the pie. There could also be partnerships which is about exploiting each other's strengths, like we learned from Rishi. And there could also be multiple brands coming together to try and do something and more engaging out with the audience over there, as we learned from Manav. So I think there are interesting ways in which you can look at it. However, if there is one common factor which can make or break a partnership is, are you doing it for the longer term? Are you doing it for a larger benefit to the audience, to the consumer, and not for yourself alone? That is when probably partnerships become more enduring and lasting. And it's all about shared values.
Just one point to sum it up. Many of us would have read The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey, which talks about dependence, independence, and interdependence. This is about the human being, that initially he's very dependent, then he becomes very independent, and ultimately for growth he has to be interdependent. So I think in terms of companies also, right now we're in the stage of from dependence we've gone to independence. All companies want to be independent and they say we are the ones. And the future is going to be when all of us will become interdependent, where all the organizations will work like the organs of the body, like the organs don't compete with each other. Similarly, organizations won't be competing, but working for the society. So I think that's what the future is.
No, no, absolutely. So it's all about, you know, because however big a brand may be, one day they become irrelevant. Kodak, for example, you know, no longer a brand, such a fabulous, great brand. So you need to constantly innovate, invent. Maybe you can't do it on your own. That's where you should kind of look for partnerships which can enrich the proposition, and you can go on and become more engaging and interesting. Great, thank you so much. Thank you, all the panelists. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you to all the panelists and the